of the DSP. As always, I'm your host, Josh. This episode is brought to you by Great Lakes Discs. Whether you're looking for cool new gear or your new favorite disc, Great Lake Disc has what you need. Click the Linktree link and you'll see the Great Lake Disc link. Click that and start your shopping today. While you're on the Linktree, you'll also see a link for Idio Sports. If you want to take your game to the next level, make sure you get Idio shoes on your feet. The only disc golf shoes made by disc golfers for disc golfers. Also use my discount code discseeker to save money on your next order. Without further ado, I'll let my guest fully introduce herself, where she's from, and where her disc golf journey begins.
Hi, thank you so much, Josh, for having me. I'm very excited to be here and just talk disc golf, talk about who I am. So I am Alexis Kerman, aka Shark, is my nickname. So if you follow me on Instagram or look me up on socials, you'll probably see Shark pictures or stamps or some sort of branding like that. It's just a nickname I got from when I played Ultimate Frisbee. And so my nickname on my Dallas club team was Shark Bait. And that's just kind of evolved to just being Shark. And now that's what I stuck with as I entered the disc golf sphere. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and then I moved to Columbia, Missouri, where I still am at now. That's what I consider where I consider my home base. I went to the University of Missouri for my undergrad, and then I also actually ended up getting my graduate degree. My undergrad was in Parks, Rec, Sport, and Tourism with a dual emphasis in sport management and leisure service management. And then not until like four and a half years later did I end up pursuing my master's degree in natural resources with an emphasis area in sport management. And I did my thesis project on studying disc golfers in the Columbia, Missouri area. And so we just looked at different motivations for playing, course aspects and what they liked about courses, and just doing all that fun stuff and writing my thesis research on disc golf. And so I've sort of, ever since I found disc golf in 2020, which was when COVID hit, I've just kind of involved my life around this sport in one way or another. So I started playing because I couldn't play Ultimate Frisbee during COVID, and I was really actually ready to jump back into Ultimate. I had sort of taken a step back from competitive club and really grinding out 7 days a week playing, working out. But I wanted to go play for a women's team. They were called Wicked in Kansas City at the time. But obviously that didn't happen because the team sport had to put a halt on Ultimate. And my husband and our family friend started playing disc golf. And I was like, well, I don't want to be left out. Like, I want to play something too. And I just was like, oh, okay, this is fun. I think I had actually played with a group of Ultimate friends maybe a year or two prior to 2020. And I did not like it. I was like, oh, this is terrible. This doesn't fly like an Ultimate disc. Like, I don't want to do this. And I didn't touch a disc again. And then I was able to I remember the disc. It was like a yellow, like a mustard yellow Gateway Element. And it flew just like perfectly on one shot. And that was the moment I was hooked on disc golf. So here we are now.
So, how did your thesis paper turn out, and what did you learn from writing up your thesis paper on disc golf?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So now it's been like 2 years since I wrote it. I haven't looked much at it. It it was a really fun and interesting journey because there's not a lot of specific academic research on disc golf. I know we have several different like departments or people who are around who are studying a lot of the kinesiology and like muscle movement and wear and tear, and that part of disc golf. I know there's just a couple. There's other people out there who are studying or have started studying that kind of part of the disc golf sport, but we don't really. When we look at like, well, why do people play? How do people get into it? Why do they like disc golf? And what is it about different courses that people like? And how can we use that resource or research to then create better resources, amenities, and all of that good stuff at our parks? And or for these course designers, right, who are trying to, well, we've been around, disc golf's been around, seems to be what people like, but what we think somebody might like or be motivated by might not actually be true for the overall population. So my research project was specifically just on like motivation, and comparing different aspects of like park amenities, intrinsic, extrinsic, all that stuff. Again, I can't remember all of the details off the top of my head. It's been several years, but it was just interesting because there were no other research articles for me to base my research off of. And so I was kind of having to almost pave a path of like, okay, this is what we sort of want to find out and understand. And, maybe if I got a PhD one day, I could build off of that or something.
Yeah. So when you were first coming into the sport, how did it feel being like a female getting into the sport? Was it intimidating? And then like as you grew your game, was it difficult for you to find like coaches and stuff because you're a female?
Yeah, so I would say I'm not a very intimidated person. And I think just having been kind of a minority all of my life and growing up knowing that, there are more barriers that I might have to hop over when you think about the academic world, when you think about just ultimate was also a male dominated sport. So I spent so much of my time as a female ultimate player finding ways to build the female ultimate community. And like I became captain of the Mizzou women's ultimate team. I don't know, I always find myself in sort of these leadership roles just kind of naturally, not because I might be seeking them out, but because again, I think I have this personality of like, okay, I'll do it. If nobody else wants to do it, I'll do it, because it takes a person to help push things forward, especially as a female, and create spaces and create opportunities for female athletes, no matter what sport that is, right? We see this in every sport. So yeah, I don't think it was hard for me to start playing disc golf because I was a female, but I am very aware that there are very few females that do play disc golf, and especially like in my area. And we've kind of had a women's group. We actually don't have an active women's group anymore in Columbia. I had started an active women's group in Jeff City several years ago while I was not touring. Touring has not hurt, but it doesn't help me like build those communities because I'm not here. But yeah, so I didn't find it difficult to start playing because I was a female, because I knew I was going to find a way to play. And the moment I decided to I literally jumped into the deep end, because my first tournament ever was the Mid-America Open Silver Series event here in Columbia, Missouri. So at the time, it was a Silver Series Pro Tour event. And I was like, oh, there's spots. Should I play? I've never played a tournament before. I've literally been playing for like 3 weeks. And George Smith is, I'm sure you're familiar with George Smith maybe, but he is a very well-known historic figure in disc golf. He's been playing for a very, very long time, but he lives here in Columbia, Missouri. And he had a shop at the time that I had started, and I went in. I was like, George, do you think I should play this big event? I don't know. And everyone encouraged me to play, so I signed up. But yeah, I think the path to becoming now a pro female disc golfer is an interesting one, especially as now I've kind of reached this point where it's all self-taught. And so I'm like, where do I go from here? Like, I do want a coach. I do need a coach. But those types of, I guess, people aren't as established, right? Like in any other sport, you can go to the YMCA, or you go to there's an organized club, and then they have coaching, and then they can, you travel around with a team. And that's what I grew up in, a lot of team sports. I did do individual. I competed as a figure skater, and I also did tennis. And so I did individual sports as well. And then horseback riding, like I was an equestrian, so both English and Western discipline. And I would travel around with people who would coach me. And I had coaches for all of those sports. And now I find myself for the first time in my life, in my 30s even, where I'm like, what do I do now? Like, I'm out there and I'm competing, and I have a tour card, and I want to be good. And teaching myself is only going to get me so far. But I do, like, again, I'm doing things to reach out. Like, I've worked with Gavin Babcock before. And I started working with him last season, which was, it opened my game up so much, and it was just helpful to work with him. Just for the few practice rounds we would go out. I also work with a mental performance coach, and I work with a physical trainer now. So this year. So I'm trying to do the things and find the ways to help me as a player. And it's sort of a journey.
Yeah. So, what is it like competing on tour? Like what's been the biggest experience from jumping in and just competing at the tour level?
Yeah, I think you realize the competition level is insane. And we all see it, that the skill level has exponentially increased since I think I specifically got into the sport around COVID, because at that time we saw a lot more females getting into the sport too, because it was just an accessible hobby in a way, but then a hobby that for us females who were excelling fast at the amateur level, both from FA3 up through FA1 in 2020 to 2022, we needed somewhere to go. And the tour is just that next step right now. And so I think I have a lot of fun out there, and sometimes I have to take a step back and really just appreciate where I have gotten myself to, of being the top whatever players who compete on the tour. There are only so many tour cards, and I get the opportunity to step out there and compete for essentially a win. I'm not competing for wins, but that's how you have to frame it for yourself, right? I get to compete for a win every weekend on the pro tour, and that's really cool. But it is very challenging, and it's so different than like local A tier, B tier competition as well. Who was I talking? You learn to lose a lot, and in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of like on how my season is going right now. Is I'm learning how to lose a lot, but each time I'm learning something new.
Yes, 100%. And you have to keep going, and that's the thing is, if you're going to decide to step out onto the tour, you have to accept that you aren't going to win every weekend. Not even Kristen was winning every weekend, right? And it's all relative, right? Depending on where you're trying to place at, but being able to realistically set goals for yourself, accept your skill level of where it's at, embrace just the challenge that it presents, which can be hard every single weekend. We're going weekend after weekend after weekend out there. And I less so even then, half of them who go to Europe and go to the West Coast, I don't do those parts of the tour. I just choose to come home, and I have a full-time job too, so I trying to find some balance. But yeah, it's a grind, and uh, yeah, I think it's a journey, and it's exciting though, learning, like you said, how to, like, okay, well, I learned this, and eventually it will all just hopefully click and come together. That's the hope.
Yeah. So what was one of your biggest struggles in your game, and how did you like learn to overcome it?
So I will say I am actually dealing with the biggest struggle in my game right now, which is putting. And like I said, I do pay and work with a mental performance coach, and I'm very thankful that I have someone in my corner, someone on the team that I'm building behind me to help me during this time. Um, it doesn't click overnight. Obviously, I've been struggling with it specifically since I know it started happening the Mobile Championships back in March. I don't know. I just have bad yips and very bad performance anxiety right now, like bullseye at 20 feet. So it's just learning tools. I think the mental performance tools that we don't see, that aren't tangible, right? It's not like, okay, I've read books too. I read Golf is Not a Game of Perfect and Putting Out of
Mm-hmm.
Your Mind as well. Very amazing books. And they all, for me, it was one of those things where it's like it 100% backs up everything I already know. But now it's like, okay, you know these things. We accept that we need to know these things. Now, how do we use these things? Because how I use a mental performance tool and how somebody else might use a mental performance tool is completely different. And it's learning how to make it work for myself. So I'm currently, I think that's where I'm at with it, is I'm learning how to use these tools to help progress my game forward, especially on the putting green.
Yeah. I definitely know about the putting issue because that's been my issue this season too.
Yeah.
And it's like I get close to a bird and then I get so like excited about getting the bird that I completely whiff the putt and then it's just like, oh
We just, yeah, have to calm down. How do I calm down and not freak out here?
yeah. So what does a typical week of practice look like for you leading up to a big tournament?
Sure. So I start practice by 6:30 in the morning. On, like, let's say we have Ledgestone coming up, I'll get a round in at 6:30, and then I work. And so I am one of the directors of the college disc golf, and so that takes up my whole life if I'm not playing disc golf. I would say I love my job, and so I pour a lot of heart and soul into it year round, especially during our regular season, which is just basically the school year for our student athletes, and all in preparation for the national championships in April. So yeah, I am. I won't lie. I am still trying to figure out what a typical week should look like so that it can help balance out like my desire to be good on the tour. But yeah, so I practice. It takes me roughly 2.5 hours to practice. Just depends on the course. And then I work until 5, 6, 7 p.m. depending on the day. And then I get a workout in somewhere in there. And then I eat, and I go to sleep, and I do it all over again. So I wouldn't say I'm very exciting. I don't tend to get to explore and do a lot of other things, but it is like, okay, blocking off the time for practicing, whether that's practicing the course, putting, or working out, and then my job.
So when you say working out, are you doing like heavy lifting or more so of like explosive movements? And do you do a lot of cardio or not much cardio?
It's a mix of it all. It's whatever my physical trainer sends me. I work with Griffin Fox. He also works with other athletes like Gavin Babcock. And he, so yeah, he puts up together basically a 5-week plan for me, and I'll let him know, okay, these are the events I have coming up. For example, with US Women's coming up, we have hit cardio more because we're going to be at 9,000 feet of elevation at some point, and I'm just not used to that. So I was like, I don't want to be, heaving and not able to breathe while I'm in Utah. So anyway, he's integrated more cardio into my workouts, which I absolutely hate, but I'm doing them for the most part. I'm doing them and getting through them. And then, it's a lot of like weight lifting. So both dumbbells and then a lot of use of the barbell. And as heavy as I guess you could get without me getting crushed under the weight.
So what don't you like about running? Because like for me, running's like my favorite part of my workouts. Like I'll go run like 5-6 miles like a day, and I'm obsessed with it.
I think ever since I played Ultimate and all I did was run and run and run, because again, you asked earlier about like being a female, and and I mentioned, there's not a lot of females in the sport, and Ultimate was the same way. So oftentimes I found myself on club teams, or my own college team did not have a lot of females. And so I was playing the majority of points in our games. And so, I mean, I was running for like an hour and a half straight, essentially, because I didn't get a sub. And I think just since then, and as I've gotten older, I'm just like, I don't want to run. I will say I do enjoy when he has me like jogging for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I could jog for 10 minutes, and I'd rather jog than lift a heavy barbell. So that's fine with me.
Yeah, if you keep a nice jogging pace, it's pretty relaxing. That's what I do for my long runs. I'll just pick a nice steady pace where I can comfortably talk to somebody and hold a conversation while running, and that's like the perfect pace.
Yeah. I'm still looking forward to it being over. It's not bad. I'm getting more used to it. I guess the workouts are working because I am liking more running maybe than I did at the very beginning. I remember the first run he had me do. I was like, "Are you sure you want me to run?" And I think his response was great, and I think he's learned how to work with me, but it was like, "Okay, you're preparing for a tournament, Shark. Are you just gonna not go practice?" And I was like, "Oh, well, no, I'll go practice." Like, then you should probably go run. I was like, "Oh, that's a good point."
Yeah. So, before I got into disc golf, I was really into like motorcycle racing, like MotoGP, where they take like the IndyCar tracks and
Mm-hmm.
they'll race motorcycles on it. And there was a coach, Ken Hill, and he always talked about having your cardiovascular up to its peak level. It keeps you in your competitive mode longer and at your peak competitive mode longer than anybody else who isn't in cardio shape. So
Yeah.
I've always kept that in my mind, and like, all right, I want to be at my peak performance and being able to run at that high level all tournament long without a
Yep.
drop off.
Yeah. It's so true because you don't think about how your cardio, uh, like how in shape you are on a cardiovascular level, translate to translates or is directly correlated to your mental focus level, right? And I think that's the exact point you're making that he made, and so I love that because it's so true. It's when you go into all of our DGPT events are 3 minimum, right? That 3 rounds on like the toughest, longest tracks we play, anyone plays. And so you have to be able to lock in for the majority of the time and know how to like take yourself out and relax for 2 5 minutes as you're walking to the next hole, but then lock back in. But then that mental fatigue hits you out of nowhere and you don't know why you can't concentrate or you can't focus on the disc or focus on your throw or why your mind is wandering. And it definitely ties into like maybe a more poor cardiovascular or physical in shapeness because your mind and body are one. Like it's so true. I love that.
Yeah. So, what is your role as director of college disc golf? Because I heard you mention that, and it's like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah, it's a really all encompassing role, is what I chalk it down to, which doesn't chalk it down to anything. um, but we're a very small organization. And, you know, when you really look at college disc golf, it's still in startup phases. It has been kind of in this phase since '07, but we have grown exponentially since the very first nationals that was in Georgia. And here we are now in Rock Hill with over 700 athletes, 700 to 800, depending on the season. And so I like to also compare like what we do very vaguely to like we are the NCAA of disc golf. Um, Obviously, disc golf is not an NCAA sport. I think I'm happy. I love where we're at with the organization that I get to be a part of and push forward to create competition for college disc golf athletes of all kind throughout the year. And so with this role, like I said, is all encompassing. We have to plan, we have to organize, communicate, market, create rules, create processes, structures, just anything you can think of to running and carrying out the goals of an organization. So that's what I get to do every day, which is really fun.
So, what is one positive thing that you're seeing from the younger generation coming into disc golf?
Um, I think one positive thing we're seeing from our younger generation is the desire to reach a higher skill level. And I think that's really cool to see because we're seeing that directly impact the collegiate level of disc golf. And that just means that we're in a place for positive and directive change from our organization to help pave a path or create and provide a path, right? Provide opportunity for these young athletes who are looking already to the highest level of competing on the pro tour, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the goal. That's the goal for all these young athletes. They're like, I want to be with Isaac Robinson, Gannon Burr, or I want to be up there with Holland Hanley and Ella Hansen. You know, I want to be competing with the best. And so I think the more we are seeing this younger generation come into the sport, for me, this shows a really positive sign of growth for the sport. And now it's challenging us as those who are in a position to creating organized sport and competition at different levels to help pave that path to where they want to go to. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, just in my local scene, like I'm impressed by these young kids. Like they're coming out and they're just throwing so far, and it's like
It's
it
insane.
blows my mind away how far they're actually throwing.
Yeah, I just think it's really exciting. We're seeing, you know, more organized high school competition as well. We're actually seeing like high school championships this year popping up. I know there's one in Indiana coming up. There was one in Missouri several weeks ago. There's I think one in Michigan. They're popping up all over, which is great because that means that the level of work we've done on the PDGA Scholastic and Ed side, which I was on that committee as well, and where we give out scholarships to scholastic groups and clubs. So those who are forming or have formed clubs at the middle school, high school, and elementary level. And it's like, okay, they're creating these clubs. Now they need competition. And yeah, it's just insane. And now we're seeing so many amazing athletes who are so young just playing, like you said, throwing billion feet. Like, where did this come from? Like, this is the sport has evolved
Yeah.
in, I think, a pace that I don't know. It's just wild.
Yeah. It's really cool for me because like I started disc golf in my 30s, so I was way past my prime and everything. But it's really cool seeing these young kids like have the the courage to just enter in their first tournament, not care about like competing against older people, and still just crushing it.
I agree. It is really cool. Um, I'm didn't start like I'm still, I would say, very a newer player and person to the disc golf world, not having entered until 2020. And so I imagine, especially for those who have been around for a long, long time, it's gotta be kind of awe inspiring to see the new generation coming into the sport.
Yeah, definitely. So, what is in your bag this season? What do you like to throw?
I love the discraft heat. So I'm with Team Discraft, and so I throw all discraft, and my favorite mold is the heat. And I just love that it's a 9-speed fairway and just glidey, can be flippy. There are stable runs depending on the weights that I throw. So I think I bag 4 or 5 heats, just depends on the course that I'm playing. And so that's my favorite mold. But I also love the Thrasher now. It took me a really long time to like the Thrasher. I actually didn't start throwing it until this season. And working out has directly improved my game as far as distance goes. And it's actually wild to see that I've added on and like accurately 40 to 50 feet more distance.
Ooh,
Um,
wow.
which is just insane. So anyway, so now I can throw faster speed discs like the Thrasher, and I have a Captain's Thrasher for stability, and then I have lightweight Thrashers for like more distance than what my heats can go. And then I putt with the Kratos. And so I really like the Kratos because it has a bead on it. When I first started playing, I putted with PA3s. So those had a bead. And I had been going and cycling like the Challenger OS, and Challenger SS all at the same time. Josh, I was insane. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then one of my best friends, Tim, was like, all right, Alexis, we really gotta like figure out your putter here. And it was last year, I was like, I'm committing to the Kratos. And I really like the Kratos because it's just reliable. I like more stable putters. So I wanted to like the Luna, but because the regular baseline, like just the regular Luna wasn't stable enough and kind of flipped up or just didn't fly exactly how I wanted. So the Kratos has been great because it's more stable, and I actually will throw the baseline Kratos as well because I think its flight and numbers are accurate.
Nice. So, what drew you to Discraft?
I think it was Ultimate Frisbee. I mean, Discraft has been around the game for forever, right? Of plastic lids, and so it was always a Discraft Ultra Star, Discraft sponsored events. Discraft was all over the place there. So when I started playing disc golf, I was like, oh, Discraft, I know that brand, and I think I just was drawn to that brand from the start. I threw a lot of different molds when I first started out because at the time I wouldn't say Discraft really had a ton of lightweight options. And of course now they have their whole Z Light lineup, and they definitely pump out more lightweight molds. And I'm sure that has to do with a direct result of more females during that COVID period as well, who like myself were getting into it. And so there was a need and a demand for more lighter weight molds and options. But yeah, so I don't know. I just love them. And then I love, Wes and the crew at the Discraft Factory. They're really awesome. But actually, Ledgestone had brought me onto the team before I was even on Discraft Underground. And so Nate and Dwight and Andrew and that whole crew there kind of took me in when they first started their ambassador program back in probably 2022. And so I wasn't required to throw all discraft at that time, but it just made sense to throw majority discraft anyway. And I was just finding a lot of stuff that I really loved. And then, yeah, then I got onto underground probably around 2023. It was like mid 2023. They picked me up mid season.
That's really cool. So if you ran into a group of females that are getting out there for their first round and they're like, I heard about a tournament, I don't know if I should do it, how would you encourage them to sign up for their first tournament?
I feel like I do end up having this conversation a lot with women, actually. So I would just give like an actual real world example of a group of women I brought into disc golf. So when I went back and got my master's degree, that was my first introduction to college disc golf because Mizzou actually had a disc golf club on campus. They did not have a disc golf club on campus when I was an undergrad. And so just didn't even know about it. But then I had just started playing disc golf, and then I was like, oh, well, y'all have a disc golf club, I want to join. And at the time, it was just myself and then Renee, who was my partner, who I ended up getting the 2-time team championship titles with. But I was like, we need to bring more women. Like, how do we get more women? Again, I'm not shy. So I was playing out at the disc golf course and I saw a group of 3 women and I went up to them. I was like, are y'all Mizzou students? And they said, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, my name's Alexis. Can I get your number or can I give you my number? And we have a Mizzou disc golf club and we are trying to get a women's team together and I would love y'all to join. And then I just like pestered them and then they came out. But my biggest thing is just saying like, just do it. But something I understand is like, it is so much harder to convince a female to go do something new than it is to convince a male because there are less people like them who will be at an event, for example. And so you're asking these women who don't know many people, who tend to be more shy and are less willing to try something new and say, just how do you convince them? And I think it's just for me, it's like, okay, well, we have a women's league. It's like steps to getting them there. It's like there's a women's league, or we'll do all women's practices, and we, have an all women's group chat, and so then you can feel like, okay, I'm not embarrassed because I know it's just this one random lady who walked up to me on a disc golf course. But yeah, it's just like, okay, I feel more comfortable because she's a female like myself. And I don't feel like I'm going to say something stupid or ask something dumb to a group of men who might be like, what the heck? Or I'm not as worried about someone blowing me off. That's the other thing too, right? It's like this whole process to creating an inviting and open atmosphere where women feel safe and encouraged to participate. And that's really hard to do if you don't have sometimes somebody specifically championing for that type of effort, right? And so I think, yeah, I just think like, okay, I want these group of women to play. How can we get them to play? What can I do to help create an environment or a space for them to feel like they want to play? And we're challenged with this in college disc golf too, right? And so I have a women's only Facebook group for our college disc golf female athletes, for example, so that they feel like there's a place to go to. We try and do women's nights during college nationals so they can get away from the guys on their team. And sometimes the women want to hang out with the guys, which is great. And everybody has different wants and needs, but still offering and creating a space for females. I think that's the way I like to try to go about attacking that.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect way of doing it is building an environment for them that is very comforting to them and not intimidating.
Yes, which is very hard to do because then you think about, okay, well, I have just 3 women, which is awesome. 3 interested women, but all 3 of them are very different and they have different personalities and they all have different needs. And so, how can I meet their needs and goals for getting into the sport separately while all at the same time?
Yeah. So as we're wrapping this up, do you have any questions for me?
No, not many questions. What do you like to throw, Josh?
So I was a sake bomb felon freak, but now Dynamic Disc gave me the brand new. They gave me the brand new intent. I've had this
Oh,
for a couple weeks now, and I'm now obsessed with this disc. I can't wait for it to hit the market. July 16th is available for everybody, so I'll
that's
definitely be
exciting.
buying a lot more of those.
Sweet. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. So the final question I got for you tonight is what are your goals for this season and where can people follow you?
So, I think my biggest goal as a player is finding consistency in all of my game because if I find consistency, then I can hopefully start cashing on tour, which is not something I've been able to do on my really what feels like the longest journey of my life, but it's something, yeah, that's one of my biggest goals is to cash on tour, and I know I'll do that by finding consistency, and so just continuing to put in the work will hopefully get me there. And yeah, if you want to find me online, I have an Instagram, Kermy123Lexi. And then I have some YouTube videos, not a ton of YouTube videos. It takes a lot of time to do those. And then a lot of people like to friend me on Facebook, but I often won't accept friend requests. So Instagram's just the best way to follow me. So I don't have X or Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't even know what it's called these days. I still
I
call
don't
it
know
Twitter.
either. It's funny because it's like everyone thinks I'm really, really young, and it's like, oh, I'm an older millennial. Like I'm in my millennial days. Like I'm in my 30s. Like
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
not online really.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the same boat.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, just reach out if you need anything. I'm gonna have another tour series fundraiser stamp, limited stamp dropping. Hopefully in the next month, either before or after USWDGC. I've got stickers and jerseys through Disc Golf Threads. So if you want a shark jersey, you should go check that out. And I'm also getting some patches too. So yeah. Different ways to support me as a player. And then, of course, one last thing I do want to plug, of course, is College Disc Golf. If you're not following College Disc Golf, you should be. It's really exciting. We have amazing competition on an individual level coming in, but that really makes up the team side of the sport, which is what College Disc Golf is all about. So we just had our national championships for 2026 wrap up in April, and we are already preparing for the upcoming season. We have our current program, Summer Sesh, and the Collegiate Individual Championship coming up in September. So, anyway, a lot of cool stuff. Love college disc golf. It's what my life is about. And yeah.
And plus, it'll give if you watch college disc golf, it'll give you a chance to see the next and upcoming generation coming into the sport.
Mm-hmm. Josh has got it right there. I think you interviewed, was it Chase Farler? No. You interviewed somebody.
From the head coach
Finn.
from Holton College.
Oh, yes, Ben Campbell.
Yep.
Yes. So, anyway, go check that interview out if you haven't, because Ben has been a mover and shaker in the disc golf world and is our Northeast Conference leader.
Yeah. In a couple months, I'll be going back out to that college for the Eagle Wings
Okay.
event. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So cool. Thank you for hopping on tonight.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And this is really cool that you're interviewing all these different people in the disc golf community so other people can get to know them. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.